Flashback 13.1 Friends and Diamonds Are Forever Part 1 Entombed Mr. Lessky in Celestial Crystallized Cave. There we were. The team had rescued me from the Scottsdale psychiatric prison for the criminally insane. But I was not insane. I was unjustly charged for a murder that was in self-defense for my own life and for the lives of an elderly couple that I defended. Anyway, we were inside our Knights Templar KT logo branded turboprop cargo plane, our incognito cargo recreational vehicle RV in the sky. It was a gas guzzler, and it needed to refill its tanks often. Flying across the ocean meant, well, that there was a lot of refueling stops, which meant landing on islands and in small countries that frankly I never heard of. Well, we had been flying for days. It was a lot of flight time, landing and refueling, and waiting, and more waiting, until we were cleared to land or take off again. Well, finally, we landed our KT cargo plane in the northern fields of Athlone, Ireland. We had arrived. We were back where the big red barn hangar was that had stored the Knights Templar incognito cargo plane. From there, we rolled on in Tiny's Ford Expedition taxi to the law firm of Midnight and Associates that operated in the basement of Castle Athlone's museum. As usual for us, we parked outside the castle in our black Ford Expedition, away from the main tourist parking lot, right along the River Shannon. We returned to the Knights Templar's headquarters below Castle Athlone's public museum, in its ancient catacombs and passageways far below it. Things were entirely everyday. Events and things were as expected. You might be getting the idea that there's a build-up here to something that was not entirely expected. Indeed, something was not as expected. Yeah, once we descended into the Knights Templar's command post, where the legendary round table of Arthurian legend, which turned out also to be a sort of divine celestial telephone that can call heaven's angels for help. And yes, we saw it. It's true. Well, the entire chamber where the round table was seemingly encased in a diamond-like frozen gaseous goo. It was like the entire room was filled with gray and black, smoky, viscous fluid frozen in the air. It was gray and black with streaks of smoky, cloudy, translucent, white-gray, oily swirls throughout. It was like a winter wonderland indoors. And worse, the goo, it was entirely solid, frozen solid. It was crystalline. It was impenetrable. It was no longer goo, presuming that in fact it ever was. It looked like something had filled the entire chamber, from floor to ceiling, with this epoxy glue, and then it set. It froze solid, and everything within it was frozen as well, locked within it, like a prehistoric bug trapped in amber. Let me say that again. The best way to describe what we saw was that it was like diamond epoxy glue that had been injected into the room and let dry and set, and everything inside was preserved like a bug from the dinosaur era trapped in an ingot of amber. The bottom line, we had no way in or out of it. That meant a lot of things. We had no way to access the celestial round table, and thus we had no way to contact heaven or the angels, and thus much lower chances of receiving a blessing or a miracle. The rooms beyond the round table were likewise inaccessible. They too could be glued solid, locking everything they contained in time and beyond our reach. Midnight and Associates stored many valuable things in those catacombs below, which we would no longer have access to at all. Well, at least not for now. Celestial relics and tomes, well, they're unavailable. Weapons and munitions from Midnight and Associates armaments and their supply vaults, well, unavailable, inaccessible. The private quarters and sleeping chambers for us, sealed away, unavailable. In perspective, there was nothing available beyond the greeting entryway and the side meeting room. And Mr. Lessky, he was there too, inside the encased room. He was encased, frozen solid, inanimate, locked in time. His hands were pressed flat on the round table, apparently gunshot wounds across his torso and back. It was so shocking. What had happened? Is Mr. Lessky alive? Is he somehow suspended in animation, some weird cryogenic state? Or is Mr. Lessky dead? He has gunshot wounds. Were they fatal? Were he returned to animation now and freed of this diamond epoxy frozen space? Would he simply drop dead? We simply had no idea what happened, and if Mr. Lessky was alive or dead or anywhere in between. Sarah exclaimed as she grabbed her phone, frantically connecting to the Knights Templar's secure wireless network. She mumbled aloud as she manipulated her phone desperately at its app's Secret Cam 8. It seemed the Knights Templar had a lot of secret cameras throughout their facility, in the basement and deep in the catacombs of Castle Athlone. And it seemed that Sarah could access that network with her phone. She declared, "Let's see what the security cameras saw." Yeah, the Knights Templar were high-tech. Not old-school guys with swords only. But they still did use swords. I think it made them extra cool. Well, Sarah was clearly distraught. I had not seen her so upset and near tears. Maybe she was this emotional when she shared her story of losing her father when she was 8 years old. She was immensely and justifiably upset. Well, she yelled so loudly, "No!" The security footage appeared. She scrubbed forward to find key highlight moments, and what she saw